Huh? Okay. Now you can hear me, right? Yeah. All right. We will start again. Saying all that good stuff, and I just wasted 2 minutes. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. So, what I was saying was, what the hell is it doing being Monday when I haven't finished my Saturday yet? On the show today, seriously, not kidding, 20-pound rats. Oh, yeah. Moonshine, not just a big win, and a little kid learning to say the word mama does not exactly turn out the way it's expected. All that and more. Welcome again to the Jay Sheldon Show. It is indeed a Monday. Oh, my goodness. You know what? It's Monday. Let's just chalk it up to that. All right. We'll just say it's Monday, and there you go. Danny, Marilyn, Carolyn, good morning to you. And beautiful sunny 70 degrees in where Danny's living there. I believe it's Illinois. Karen in Florida, the free state of Florida. Yes, indeed. All right. Am I kidding? Is there really a 20-pound rat problem? Well, guess what? I'm not. California has a big bucket of problems these days. For one, the Golden State is broke. It's overseen by one of the least capable governors in the country. They've among the highest fuel prices, the highest taxes, the highest cost of living in the entire United States. Population all fleeing, the productive members anyway. You cannot even rent a U-Haul to go from LA to Dallas right now. They're just not available. They've all been used. They're all sitting in Dallas, taken there by families who were fleeing for greener pastures, and they found them. And then there's the huge influx, which isn't helping one little bit. In fact, it's getting in the negative numbers, the illegal immigrants over the last few years that have absolutely flooded into California. Well, guess what? It ain't over, because now there is a new wave of immigrants, and there's something a little bit different. They are 20-pound aquatic rodents, basically water rats. California is under invasion by a 20-pound rodent that once was believed to have been eradicated from the state, and officials now fear that humans are to blame. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife once believed they tested the DNA of the 2.5-foot long pest, 2.5 feet long. This is basically a rat. It's called the nutria, because I guess rat was a little too much. Shows the current population is linked to animals from Oregon, not the species that roamed California in the 70s before they wiped them all out. The study supports their long-held belief that the current invasion is the result of reintroduction rather than explosive growth of a remnant undetected population. They got rid of them the first time, and now they're back. Nutria, or water rats, are basically semi-aquatic rodents. They're native to South America. They live near freshwater and estuaries. And besides burrowing like beavers, they cause extensive damage to water infrastructure, banks, levees, pose a hazard to people, livestock, machine operators, all that according to the agency. Now, nutria, I'm given to understand, are basically like giant muskrats, but without the shiny, valuable fur. Muskrat fur is very valuable. They're destructive burrowers, dig under rivers, creek banks, destroy landscape, undermine waterways, levees, wing dams, and worst of all, they breed like Well, rats. The new wave of nutria apparently came from Oregon, may have been introduced on purpose. Given where nutria are rediscovered in California, it is nearly impossible they could have migrated there on their own. It's too far a distance, and we don't find any nutria in the areas in between Oregon and where they're finding them in California, which makes human introduction the most likely scenario. Somebody might have thought they'd be an effective natural way to manage aquatic vegetation on their private property. And some people are just big fans of nutria, water rats, or it could very well have been malicious in hopes they'd cause environmental damage. It's very hard to figure that out, but never underestimate the ability of some people to do something like this just because they can. That's the society we're living in today. The downside, very little chance anybody who may have done this is going to get caught unless someone rats them out. Could very well have been a one-person operation. Somebody live trapped a dozen or so of these water rats, dumped them in a California waterway in the dark of night. They would likely have had to repeat that a couple of times to get some kind of a viable population going. But once these little critters are, and they're not little, once these critters are established, you will never get rid of them. It is a heck of a job. And now apparently California is going to have to do exactly that. Could be a job for Eric Swalwell and Governor Newsom after they're both out of their offices, which they're going to be really soon. The Democrats, after all, should be very used to dealing with rodents. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Speaking of Mr. Swalwell, he is having a Monday. He has suspended his gubernatorial campaign for governor in the wake of California, in the wake of multiple sexual misconduct allegations, including sexual assault. That's a criminal charge. The accusations prompted a huge exodus from his campaign staff and his endorsers. Democrats in Congress, including Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Schiff, Pencil Neck Geek Schiff, a lot of key Democrats are telling him, end it, Swalwell, end that campaign. He says, he wrote on a post on X, I'm suspending my campaign for governor. To my family, staff, friends, and supporters, I am deeply sorry for mistakes in judgment I've made in the past. And he adds, I will fight the serious false allegations that have been made, but that's my fight, not a campaign's. Former staffer says Swalwell had relationships with her twice when she was too drunk to consent. Another woman says he cultivated her political ambitions online and then got her intoxicated during a 2025 visit, kissed and groped her without her consent, after which she woke up in his hotel room with only blurred memories. Ali Samarco, social media creator, says he sent unsolicited nude photos to her while suggesting he could help her career. Very nice. Nice job, Eric. Another one says contacted her on social media, repeatedly requested explicit photos, and sent unsolicited nude photos across the span of several years. Very nice. Suspending his campaign, though, is not going to be the end of his saga. Allegations against him currently under investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Allegations. There have been growing calls for Swalwell to resign even from Congress or face expulsion. Goodbye. Should have been out of there a long time ago. He still faces calls to resign from Congress, mostly from Republicans, but according to recent reports, a big number of growing Democrats expressing opinions that Swalwell ought to say goodbye. Let's hope so. Did you see the video of him saying it's a lie? Next to it on the screen was him on a bed with a woman. It's awful, showing the proof of what a liar he is. I did not see that video, but man, couldn't be happening to a nicer guy, Karen says. What a POS. Exactly. California dodged a giant bullet with this guy. Good grief. You are exactly right, Karen. Scary, scary stuff. But he's gone. You want to prosecute him? Knock yourselves out. I think it should. Nobody's above the law. Nobody. Least of which Eric Swalwell. I'm not ignoring the Iran thing, but I'm not covering it so much because you can find coverage of this nearly anywhere. Obviously, I highly recommend you do not go to the corporate media because you're going to get one side of one story, and usually it's not even close to the truth, whether it's CNN or MSNBC or even Fox. They are all giving you one angle, not all the angles, and like I said, a lot of times, not even the truth. The Times, the Post, whatever it is. Central Command, apparently today, is starting an Iranian blockade. Americans woke up Sunday to find President Trump had a contingency plan for the almost certain failure of J.D. Vance's diplomatic mission to end the war in Iran in terms that are politically, military acceptable to Trump. Using social media as his platform, he announced the Hormuz Strait was closed. He says, so there you have it. The meeting went well. Most points agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not. Effective immediately, the United States Navy, the finest in the world, will begin the process of blockading any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Straits of Hormuz. At some point, we will reach an all being allowed to go in, all being allowed to go out basis. But Iran has not allowed that to happen by merely saying there may be a mine out there somewhere nobody knows about, which is basically, he says, world extortion. Leaders of countries, especially the U.S., will not be extorted. There are moving parts to this whole directive. Some of them are a bit confusing. The Navy apparently going to block the Straits of Hormuz, prevent any ship from coming or going. From the perspective of scale, there are about 1,900 ships in the Persian Gulf waiting to leave, and about 800 ships in the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Oman that are waiting to pass through Hormuz. Now, closing that means blockading ports in Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. Nobody seems to be sure on how to identify which ships have to pay a toll because of the required currencies, crypto, renminbi. The blockade raises a lot of questions about how the U.S. might handle a ship from a friendly nation seeking to transit the Strait of Hormuz. So there is a lot of confusion. Navy going to enforce this blockade, Gulf of Oman, at 10 a.m. Monday. So less than an hour from now, this is all supposed to start. We'll see. We will see what happens, but it's Honestly, it's confusing at best. Seriously. Very, very difficult to figure out exactly what's going on with this thing. What else is happening on this Monday morning? Hey, what a great idea from that absolutely useless piece of crap organization known as the United Nations. They've done it again. You ready? The United Nations has nominated Iran to the Anti-Terror Women's Rights Committee. You heard that right. Iran, anti-terror, women's rights. The Iranian regime recently massacred about 40,000 of its own people. It's been bombarding civilian targets in many nations for many weeks. Spent decades practicing international terrorism, domestic tyranny. So, of course, the United Nations just nominated an Iranian representative to their committee overseeing women's rights and anti-terrorism measures. The watchdog group called UN Watch posted on April 10th, "Shame. The Islamic Republic of Iran has just been nominated to the UN Committee for Program and Coordination, which means soon to shape policy on women's rights, human rights, disarmament, and terrorism prevention." Their executive director followed up by saying, "Is your flag listed below?" And then they had an entire, you'll see there all the different flags, different nations. He says, "If yes, it means your government joined in the nomination of Iran to a UN committee dealing with women's rights and terrorist organizations. Your MP should formally ask the government to answer for why they did such a terrible thing." The UN has been making a complete joke of itself this week. The UN committee that oversees NGOs dealing with human rights just elected representatives from Cuba, China, Sudan, Nicaragua, and Saudi Arabia. These countries engage in ongoing religious persecution, political repression, human rights abuses, and in some cases, mass murder. Yet the UN elected representatives from these countries. Appointing China, Cuba, and Saudi Arabia to oversee the works of human rights activists is like putting Al Capone in charge of fighting organized crime. Literally. Not only that, the UN recently welcomed an Iranian regime representative to chair a forum for the Human Rights Council. This is how effed up the United Nations is. Absolute waste of time, waste of our taxpayer money. It goes to support these morons. Unbelievable. If you have heard anything about the U.S. Forest Service being reorganized, there is a good chance what you heard, if you listen to corporate media, was a complete lie. This hysterical media group of morons are just blatantly lying about the Forest Service reorganization. Now, yes, that is going on. But the knucklehead, half a brain cell New York Times, or New Yorker rather, in a ludicrous news story, wrote about the gutting of the Forest Service, warns that the supposed gutting is happening right before wildfire season. Ooh, clutch your pearls, my hair's on fire. Where's my fainting couch? If you read the story for yourself, look for numbers. Budget reductions, slash staffing. Spoiler alert, you won't find any. The story is about something being gutted, but does nothing to support the claim. In fact, the Trump admin is reorganizing the Forest Service, starting by moving their national headquarters from Washington, D.C. to Utah. Kind of makes a little bit of sense. After all, it is the heart of the Western lands that the service largely manages. Stick it out where it belongs. It also replaces regional headquarters and state offices, moving management of public lands closer to the actual forests. Now, there's a thought. You can get a detailed description of the changes, a list of the offices that are closing, a list of the offices that will replace them. Reorganization, debatable. Effects, yet to be seen. But the Forest Service is not being gutted. It's being reorganized, and in a very intelligent way. National Association of State Foresters released a statement last week expressing cautious optimism about this reorganization. Quote, the National Association of State Foresters supports the transition to a state-based organizational model that will continue to serve all lands. While the structuring plan raises many questions, we appreciate that it reflects feedback from state foresters and other stakeholders. Basically, you're just taking the offices, closing the ones that are useless, and opening the ones or new ones in places where, I don't know, it's the Forestry Service. Maybe there are actually forests. It's being gutted. Look, you want to debate? Fine, not a problem. But stop listening to this hysterical, ridiculous, fake news, clickbait, simply designed to get you to click on their website and read the story, which is full of nothing but bullcrap. When asked for a response, the Forest Service, to the stupid claim the organization is being gutted, no reply yet. Still waiting. Maybe they're still too busy laughing. Seriously, why these days anybody with half a brain cell would be listening to anyone is beyond me. I mean, in the corporate media. Man, that's good. What is that? I'll tell you. It's Blackout coffee. The absolute best coffee on the planet. Blackout Coffee, one of our main sponsors here. Such an amazing group of folks. They produce the best coffee using premium beans. It's an American company. They work with local co-ops and American farmers to grow these premium beans. They only roast your beans after you place your order, then ship them out within 24 to 48 hours. If you can't grind your own whole beans, you can choose the option of ground. They will grind them for you, so not a problem. Get it delivered, open the bag, stick it in your coffee filter, and be prepared for the most robust, bold, rich coffee taste. Never, ever bitter. Flavored coffees, they've always got specials going on here. pods, all kinds of great flavors. You can sign up for a subscription, which is a brilliant idea. 20% off, free shipping, swap flavors whenever you want. Yes, see there, coffee pods, all great. Pitch black espresso, my favorite. And there you see the options there, ground or whole beans. An amazing selection of coffees, cold brew, teas, cocos, all available, and they are fantastic. You've got to try something over here at this website of Blackout Coffee. They support our troops, and Karen says I've been a subscriber for a couple years now. Thanks a lot, Jay. Hopefully you use the link in our show notes. Also, if you're a first-time buyer, make sure that you use the code J20, Jay20 at Blackout Coffee. That'll get you 20% off your first order. And be sure and use the link so that we get the credit for your visit. And hopefully, if you make a purchase, we'll get the credit for that too. Blackout Coffee. Thanks, John and the gang at Blackout, for an amazing product and for helping us out here to support the show. Fantastic. All right. Once you're done with your Blackout Coffee, maybe you'd like a quick snort of hooch. Well, guess what? Moonshine has notched a little bit of a win. The appeals court ruled on a 158-year-old ban on home distilling and calls it unconstitutional. If there is anything as historically, culturally American, it is bootlegging. Oh, yeah. Not only do Americans enjoy a good snort now and then, but just look at what happened to prohibition here in the U.S., wherein it probably made rebellious Americans drink even more than ever, ended up being repealed, but there's also a certain kind of satisfaction in evading the tax man. Now, back in the day, local teenagers did exactly that. Two old guys, members of the extensive Duffy clan that lived in the hills, sold clear white corn squeezings, including the traditional mason jars, and they'd been doing that since the Depression. Tough stuff. Any leftover moonshine after a party could be used to etch glass, poison rats, blasting stumps. Yeah, and all that without a tax stamp. For a lot of years, bootlegging had been considered legally prescribed here in the U.S., but that is changing. A new court case has tossed out the old law against distilling your own booze as long as it's for your own personal use. Yep, you can make your own booze, and ain't nothing the government can do about it. U.S. Appeals Court Friday declared unconstitutional a 158-year-old federal ban on home distilling, calling it unnecessary and improper means for Congress to exercise their power to tax. Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans ruled in favor of the nonprofit Hobby Distillers Association and 4 of its 1,300 members. They argued people should be free to distill spirits at home. Why not? Whether it's a hobby or for your own personal consumption, including, in one instance, a person was trying to create an apple pie vodka recipe, which up until this was illegal. So you still can't distill your own White Lightning and, say, sell it for $10 for a mason jar. Probably more now, but The ban was a part of the law passed during the Reconstruction in July of 1868 here in the U.S., in part to thwart liquor tax evasion. You could get, at that time, you could get up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Now, 10,000 bucks in 1868? Pfft, forget about it. Distilling seems to be at the inflection point. Fermented booze, long been legal for making personal consumption or gifts. I actually tried to make some homemade wine one time. As I recall, it did not exactly turn out very well. But to each his own. Honestly, we should not be seeking the government's permission to make anything for personal use. It was never about public safety. It wasn't about health. It was about taxation. Bottom line, pure and simple, it's just about the taxing. Make sure the government got their cut of whatever you pay for every snort you take. Be it in your favorite watering hole or in your house. That now is a change, and it is a good thing. So, cheers to that. We like it. Danny says, I think I accidentally made my own booze. When I left strawberries in my mason jar too long, it fermented and smelled like a strong wine. Did you try some? Might have been a little dangerous. I don't know. But anyway, it's illegal. I mean, it's legal now. You can do that. It's okay. Make a little... Do you remember? I remember. This just came rushing back to me. Do you remember Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill? When we were teenagers, I'm copping now to a crime, but I'm sure the statute of limitations has run out. We were probably 16, 17 years old. One of us, no doubt, was either over 18 or maybe 21 at the time. I don't remember. This was in the 70s. And the absolute cheapest rot gut crap alcohol you could buy. It wasn't beer. It was Boone's Farm wine. And they had a couple flavors. I forget the other ones. But the one I remember was Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. I don't remember like what the alcohol content in it was. Probably like almost nothing. 4%, 6%. It's very small. And it tasted, as I recall, horrible. It was awful. But we thought we were so cool. We're drinking wine out of the bottle. Of course, we're getting a little lightheaded, but I'm thinking probably some of that was kind of psychosomatic. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. Oh, my God. Danny says we drank a blue one as teens. I don't remember a blue one, but again, this is Connecticut, and I don't know where you grew up, probably Illinois, but yeah. Man, what a treat. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. You know what? Let me open a browser here. I just want to check. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. Popular, don't tell me they still make this. Popular budget-friendly strawberry-flavored fruit wine produced by E.J. Gallo Winery, known for its high sweetness and nostalgia value, often referred to as hobo champagne. Here you go. 7.5% ABV beverage, cult favorite in the 70s and 80s. Unbelievable. Apparently, you can still get it. Look at this. As far as I'm concerned, that looks like the same bottle design as, look at this, $6. They're not an advertiser. I'm not advertising booze, whatever. Knock yourselves out. But look at that. Oh man, they still make it. That is a classic. I love it. Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. All right. We spent enough time talking about that. Canada. Yep. Because, Canada, they are apparently looking to criminalize Christianity with a ban on citing Bible truths. The only way to understand the purpose of this bill, C9 it's called, and other Christian persecution in the West, is to frame it as a hostile pagan religion imposing its will. Now, leftists are going to complain and they're going to claim that they work for the common good. But what really drives them is often nothing more than a bit of religious fanaticism. Case in point, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and his new anti-Christian bill, C9, not content with the current hate speech laws, which already exist and they're ridiculous, in force in Canada, he's now pushing stricter restrictions on speech with a new law that would prohibit using religious texts in defense of speech the left has decided is offensive. Bill C9, the act, is a wide-ranging piece of legislation aimed at targeting what Carney's government claims is self-rising anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, and, of course, transphobia, because we always got to stick the phobias in there. Currently, Canada punishes citizens who call Drag Queen Story Hours event perverted grooming sessions, which pretty much they are. Oh yeah, you get fined, you get jail time, and get assigned mandatory training if you refuse to use proper pronouns. And now this bill will prohibit you from quoting scripture. It's there. Knock yourselves out, Canada. Hope you're proud of yourselves. Insane. Absolutely insane. A man has been accused of smuggling 655 illegal aliens. Well, he's been found guilty of smuggling 655 illegal aliens. Do you know what the judge gave him? 8 years. Sentenced to 8 years. Alabama man in Del Rio sentenced to 96 months in prison for conspiracy to transport illegal aliens, placing lives in jeopardy. Court documents say Joel Contreras Jr., 33, from Albertville, Alabama, was a member of the Guzman Transnational Criminal Organization, TCO, international criminal enterprise operating in Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, Mexico, directly connected to the CJNG, the Cartel de Jalisco Nuevo Generacion. The organization traffics guns, drugs, smuggles illegals all into this country. And during a traffic stop, troopers notice human bodies concealed by a blanket in the second row of the vehicle, as well as the rear hatch area. Paid up to $500 per alien. Charged in the state smuggling of persons of a likelihood of serious bodily injury or death. Of course, those charges were ultimately dismissed because, judges. Arrested again. Alleged forgery and obstruction of justice in Marshall County, Alabama. And while in custody, admitted to his role in the Guzman TCO and his participation in alien smuggling. For that, pled guilty, got 8 years. Honestly, you want to know what of that 8 years he's going to probably spend in prison? Maybe 4. Maybe 4. 600, how many was it? 655 illegal aliens smuggled into this country, putting their lives in danger. 8 years. Like I said, of which likely he will serve maybe 4, maybe. Unbelievable. Do you know who Sabrina Carpenter is? Let me show you. That's Sabrina Carpenter. And suddenly the left, who used to love Sabrina Carpenter, have changed their minds, and now they've come out for Sabrina Carpenter. Over the weekend, the famous pop singer drew the ire of the rabid left, who threw a tantrum because she didn't recognize an Arab zagruta after a patron let loose during a quiet portion of her concert. The artist said that she didn't care for the yodeling sound. So, of course, progressives jumped to label her a racist. Hen Mazig on X posted, "My Jewish grandmothers, one from Tunisia, one from Iraq, both did this at every celebration I ever had. It's called ululation. It's ancient and it's joyful. And when someone tells you, this is my culture, that's the moment you choose grace or dismissal. Let me show you exactly what happened, and you will recognize the sound when you hear it." There you go.
I think I heard someone yodel. Is that what you're doing? I don't like it. That's your culture, is yodeling? Is this Burning Man? What's going on?
Oh, man. It didn't take long for her to backtrack once the woke mob started in on her. She says, "I apologize. I didn't see this person with my eyes and couldn't hear clearly. My reaction was pure confusion, sarcasm, and not ill-intended. Could have handled it better. Now I know what a zagruta is. I welcome all cheers and yodels here on out." A lot of people came to her defense. Unbelievable. Exactly the type of mob that Carpenter and her fiendish fans have all been whipping up in the past. Far left inevitably, as always, eat their own. They always cannibalize their own the moment You step out of line. She should have known that. Likely she just brought this all on herself. Danny, she is absolutely disgusting, Danny says. I do not allow my daughter to watch or listen to her. She's extremely sexual and very graphic and dirty about it. We used to watch her in Disney shows. What a shame. You know what? I don't know thing one about this woman. I've never heard of her. I've never seen anything she's done. I saw the story. I thought it was interesting because the left suddenly attacking one of their own, which is, you step out of line with the left, that's what you get. But there you go. Unbelievable. And there is her history, apparently. All right. I got one more for you, and it's a classic. If you've got young, and I mean really young kids who haven't learned to talk yet, you remember that moment, maybe if your kids have grown a bit, where they said their first word. Was it mama or dada or whatever? Here is a very young kid the mom is trying to teach, I think it's a him, to talk, to say mama. And it doesn't quite work out the way they had planned. Take a listen.
Wait. Okay. Mama. Mama. Baby, di mama. Mas.
Mama. Samuel Andrés. Mama. Samuel Andrés. Mama.
He actually said mama. Not just once, a whole bunch of times. Mama. And then the kid reaches over and smacks him. That is a classic. Oh, man. That is brilliant. Mama. I love it. I love it. All right. We got to push ourselves along here, folks. Thanks for popping by. We appreciate it. Please follow, like the show, subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube Live. Also, of course, look in our show notes. You'll find a link to our PayPal. You can make a donation to help keep the show free, keep us going. I really do appreciate that. Any amount would help. $5, $10, $100, $1,000. If you want to go crazy, I'll love you for the rest of my life. And it's a simple and easy thing you do. You use PayPal, you just make a donation, off you go. And of course, you can also hit up all of our great sponsors over there. And Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile, NordVPN, Ground News, they're all available in our show notes. I will see you all again tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of The Jay Sheldon Show.